Myself, Shaunak Bhattacharya, TechIP coordinator of Chaibasha Engineering College, welcomes all the participants in today's national webinar on the virtual laboratory for the Department of Mechanical Engineering. So we are having some eminent people with us who will be acting as the expert person for this throughout this webinar. So with me. Professor Diyash Bhadro Madam is there to host the session. So I'd like to request her to start the session. Thank you.
Uh, okay, sir. Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to everyone. Our Honorable Director, Sir, Dr. Sudipta Chakraborty, our respected Principal, Sir, Dr. Ranjit Roy, and all my respected fellow colleagues. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Biaz Bhadro, and I am the host for today's webinar organized by Chaibasha Engineering College. Today, we are presenting the TechIP3 sponsored national webinar on a digital initiative for the future, that is virtual laboratory, which will be presented by Dr. C.S. Kumar, eminent professor from IIT Kharagpur, and his team, which includes Ms. Srilakshmi, Ms. Sujata, Mr. Aditya, and Mr. Debashish. Just a little housekeeping before we get started, so that if you have any questions during the presentation, you may type them in the question box in your Zoom control panel. I'll bring them up during the presentation, and we will also have time for questions at the end. Now, we need to understand the need of this virtual laboratory concept, especially in today's scenario. The outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic has created immediate and unprecedented challenges in the field of education. In India, schools and colleges were among the first of the many organizations which started shutting down as a precautionary measure to prevent the spread of the virus. The efforts by the government across the world to ensure sustainability of learning in this moment of crisis is revamping the whole education system. Digitized education and easy access to the internet is transforming the approach to learning with virtual classrooms, advanced learning tools, and free educational content, especially in rural and semi-urban areas. Good lab facilities and updated Good lab facilities and updated lab experiments are critical for any engineering college. Physical distances and the lack of resources often make it very difficult to perform experiments, especially when they involve sophisticated instruments. The Virtual Labs project addresses this issue of lack of good lab facilities as well as trained teachers by making remote experimentation possible. With the present day internet and computer technologies, these limitations no longer hamper the students and researchers in enhancing their skills and knowledge. In the Virtual Labs project, web-enabled experiments have been designed for remote operation and viewing. The pilot phase of Virtual Labs project was started in April 2009. During this phase, approximately 20 labs were developed as a proof of concept. The main phase began in April 2010. Virtual Labs has been operational since February 23, 2012, when it was dedicated to the nation by Kapil Sibal, the then Prime Minister of Human Resource Development. Over 50,000 students in approximately 150 colleges have used the virtual lab so far. Now, the objectives of this virtual lab is a few. To jot it down as 4-point objectives, first one is to provide remote access to labs in various disciplines of science and engineering. Second one is to cater to students at the UG level, PG level, as well as to research scholars. The third one is to enable the students to learn at their own pace and to arouse their curiosity. The fourth one is to provide a complete learning management system that includes web resources, video lectures, animated demonstrations, and self-evaluation. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to Dr. C.S. Kumar, our presenter today, He is an eminent professor from IIT Kharagpur. Now, without taking much time, let me brief about him. He received his Bachelor's of Technology degree in Manufacturing, Science and Engineering in 1987 and his doctoral degree in Mechanical Engineering in 1995 from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. He worked briefly in a manufacturing industry, that is MS Godrej and Boyce Manufacture Private Limited in 1987. He served a postdoctoral fellow of the Science and Technology Agency at AIST, Tsukuba, Japan in 1999. His research areas span control of autonomous underwater vehicles, flexure-based microgrippers, micro and nano robotics, humanoid robots, direct digital manufacturing of metals using additive processes and in computer networks. He is a member of professional international organizations, namely IEEE, ASME, and AUVSI. In India, he is serving in national bodies as an expert member in the Marine Systems Panel of the Naval Research Board, as an advisor for the Additive Manufacturing Society of India, member of Telecom Engineering Center Working Group on QoS networks. He is currently having some ongoing sponsored projects as well, such as under MHRD, the projects are Virtual Labs Pilot Phase, Virtual Labs Main Phase, and real-time virtual labs, and under Ministry of Earth Sciences, the projects are underwater acoustic sensors for AUVs, materials for underwater vehicles. This is all about introductory part. Now I would like to hand over the session to Dr. C.S. Kumar, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, ma'am, for introducing me to this session. It is a very long session, introduction. I think it is not required. Let's get directly to the topic. I had some issues regarding the this, and I hope I will be able to switch over to it. I need to get to another meeting, so my team will take over the presentation after this. So I'll quickly get to the topic now. So I hope you are all able to see the screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, I got this one wrong. I welcome all participants to this meeting. It's indeed a pleasure to always talk to teachers and students of other colleges. And during this lockdown and pandemic scenario, all of us want to get as much education and learning from home. And amongst this is a challenging part was we all know a lot about how to get access to information related to lecture materials, presentations, and this kind of online resources. But then when it comes to a lab experience, it's always different. So the lab experience has always been a case wherein you have to do something in an experiential mode. You want to actually show something to people wherein they can experience it. And often it is said that this kind of education is this kind of experiential learning is a very important part in skill development that is needed in engineering and other sciences. It's not just engineering, various aspects. In fact, when it comes to arts, when it comes to sciences, when it comes to medicine, this is even more important. So this virtual labs project, as introduced by ma'am, is started a long time ago with MHRD support to see how we can create tools that can disseminate lab experiences as well as make students learn about how to do things in labs online. For that, there are different modes of activities. And let us quickly look at what are the key factors that we need to consider when we do such an activity. So basically, this is about labs. So what do we mean about labs? In labs, we are actually it's a place where we practice some of the things that we studied in theory. And when we are studying anything in theory, we actually try to see its practical implication. Is it correct? Is it right? Can we see it ourselves? Not just listen to something which has been told in textbooks or in videos or lectures. The another important part is often that we see that in an experiment, things actually change a bit from the theory. There have been some deviations and variations, which are always, which bring out new concepts and new ideas in the process. So, which some are not always clear, but then when you see it and you can find an explanation, you get better satisfaction in learning. It also helps in tackling problems that comes up in reality when some things don't work as required. So virtual labs is making a step towards unearthing some of these and supplementing what we have in books, lecture notes, videos, etc. So essentially what we are trying to say is just having information is not that we are learning. We need to actually experience it also. And in that kind of experiencing thing, we have to start augmenting whatever we have in ebooks, video lectures, large classrooms. And that is something which is just not sufficient. We need to bring in the experiential part of it. And here digital technology is playing a major way, a major role in transforming the way we can deliver it. So what digital technologies does through information technology, it brings in a digital mode of content delivery. And in this mode, we should keep in mind of a few things. One, that the classroom that we have is actually a real classroom. When we actually sit in a class, have others sitting in the class, and you're having face-to-face interaction, the same thing happens in a lab also. You actually have a real interaction. But in virtual, we don't have that kind of interaction. But you can still have some kind of an interaction through a medium like what we are having now. Okay. But then lab experience is a little more beyond that. And that's what we will touch upon in today. And I think the remaining set of talks that have been scheduled in this TechQuip course, which IIT Kharagpur has been in touch with this Chaibasa Engineering College through Professor Chittaranjan Mandal, who has his sessions as well. So the idea is we try to do something by doing. So what do we do here? So if you go by what are the well-known statements which are there in education, Aristotle went back. This is something very before Common Era. It's the Christian era itself. You have the well-documented statement that you have to do something yourself. And then more than what we read in books, we learn by doing is what even the most recent Oxford Dictionary of Scientific Quotations also reveals. So how do we bring in experiential learning? Experiential learning we bring in by various levels. It may be through an apprenticeship, wherein typically you do it under an experienced trainer, or an internship wherein you do a project. Again, there will be a trainer or a mentor involved. But in both cases, you need either a teacher or some resources, and often this is where we need. But then we also have to do in a virtual mode in a very time-bound manner, because usually in a virtual mode means you sign up into a session like this, you get 1 hour or 2 hours, and within that 1 hour or 2 hours, you have to do some learning activities. So that's where virtual labs actually helps in. Now you may not get everything within 1 or 2 hours, but then you can always sign in again and do something at different times. And in fact, most of our labs are used round the clock, whether it is in the day or in the night or even in the middle of the night. If somebody feels that, okay, I have nothing else to do, I can run through some labs, you can do this at any time. Access is there. Then you can do it at your own pace also. If you are fast or slow in a class, you often may not be able to catch up in a real lab. But in a virtual labs, you can actually do that in a regular pace, in a pace that is more comfortable to yourself. This is something that we take typically in various aspects of engineering. I will not spend too much time on the slide, but generally we have to, when you do an engineering curriculum, we have to address the following attributes, whether it is about engineering range, where typically we attempt to solve complex engineering problems, or engineering technologist range, wherein you actually try to look at looking at engineering procedures, processes, systems, and methodologies. And as often, sometimes even as a technician range activity, where we basically focus on practical procedures and processes. So virtual labs should be able to address all three of these. So in India, what we have is brought in through this NMEICT program. It is a concept which was meant to bridge distances instead of taking long distances. We should be able to share costly equipment which have been set up in institute like ours across the country. And then we try to make quality labs made available to everyone. So today, with all this kind of computer interfaces for control and data storage, we can actually enhance the learning curiosity of students by doing experiments which are designed in a specific manner, and they are linked to computer programs, and that will deliver content to you through an internet-based approach, wherein you can actually do the experiential learning part of it. So there are two types of labs. When we do something in a modeling and simulation based, it's one kind of a virtual lab, whereas the other one, it actually uses real equipment in the lab out here and delivers outcomes to you remotely. So the one, obviously, everyone will tell you that the one which uses a real equipment is more closer to reality. That is indeed true. But then there's a lot you can learn even through a modeling and virtual based approach, because there you can control the pace, the time, and you can do many more things which you may not be able to do in the real case also. So there is a lot of there are advantages as well, and today people are talking more of the advantages, because in the COVID-like scenario, these things play a major role, and they at least give some a decent amount of exposure and time. In fact, during this pandemic time, we at IIT Kharagpur conducted all our labs in the virtual mode. So we have both the modes, modeling, as I said, and remotely triggered experiments. Today, due to the focus given by the ministry, we spend more time on modeling and simulation kind of labs. So typically, most of these virtual labs come through a website, which is here in the form of what we put up as the vlab.co.in. I will ask you all to have a look at it at some point or so later, and my colleagues and staff will take you through, the project staff and others will take you through many of the labs which are listed in it. All the objectives of the projects and various types of labs that are going on are listed here. We just had a meeting 2 days ago. They are planning for having many more labs added, so that if your college needs some specific extra labs, we can try to bring them into the picture as well. We at IIT Kharagpur also support this lab. We have, let me go back to this. This main virtual labs project is supported by multiple institutes. I wish I could open up a screen and show, but this is just a screenshot. But then what I will do is, okay. We have about 12 institutes participating in it who have created a lot of content that are shared for this. In the remaining set of presentations that will take place, we will show most of the work done through IIT Kharagpur, but then there are also work done by other institutes, which you can see through this site. IIT Kharagpur is one of them. The IIT Kharagpur websites are listed through this web link, which is shown here as vlabs.iitkgp.arnet.in. We are now using the new name as vlabs.iidkgp.ac.in because we are moving into more proper nomenclature for the website naming. Okay. This covers lots of different areas, and I will come to some in the remaining set of talks. So let me do a very brief presentation initially of this, and then I will hand over my this one to my students who will take over. Okay. So in the presenter mode, I need to open my other website. So my apologies for the small delay. Sometimes this comes up and then I'm screen sharing. Okay. So are you able to see the, oh, it is still showing the old screen. I have another monitor showing what is visible.
So actually you need to stop this sharing, current sharing.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Again, it has now come up. Now VLabs, yeah. So I will not this tab, but I will show the whole window. So I've started. Okay. So this is the website, main website, which is vlab.co.in. There are many areas where it covers. Mechanical engineering is this session wherein you see this, but we have covered various other areas as well. And below is the list of participating in institutes. You could actually click on any one of them and see their contributions. I will urge all the participants to go through this in their spare time and see what all you can do. Whereas in this workshop, we'll focus on a few topics so that you get a feel. But in general, there are about 140 more such labs across the country. The whole philosophy, what I talked about, is listed in it, the silent features. And this is regularly reviewed by MHRD and everyone on a daily basis. They ask for data and see what we are doing with it. So you can freely use this. There's no cost involved in it for anyone to access it. Then at IIT Kharagpur, we have our own set of labs. This comes to vlabs.iidkgp.ac.in, as I said. Okay, if you click on VLabs at IIT Kharagpur, the same concept, but here we enlist the contributions made by our group. And in this, there are a variety of topics that we have done, close to 20 plus topics we have touched upon in various domains. Many departments are involved in it. And today my team will take you through it. I personally am involved with the mechanisms and robotics lab, because it is of my area of work. But then I encourage everybody else to develop their own labs. So what I will do, this is my quick brief introduction of it. We probably have spent around close to 35 minutes on this. While I'll quickly show you how a typical lab looks like. A typical lab will look like this, wherein there will be an introduction, a list of experiments, the technology used. We specialize in using a technology which will allow quick dispersal of the lab content to your end device, which may be a desktop or a mobile or a laptop or even a mobile, wherein you can review the content and you can interactively change the content and see the outcome of it. Most of it will be executed on your own device. Whereas for certain labs or content, the information comes to our site. It is the computations are carried out on our site and the responses are relayed back to you. And internet connectivity is required, but there are models in which we are trying to move the content to the universities also, so that inside the university you can manage it. And most of it is also going into a cloud-based scenario, so that it doesn't matter wherever you are in the world, you can nicely access this without having to depend on a specific server, which may at sometimes go down also. So in this case, like we cover a list of experiments on how for different kind of practical robots that we have, how to use that, inclusive of mechanisms and all that. So I will stop here and then ask my colleague, Ujjal, are you there? I have requested my colleague Ujjal to take over, or next, is Ujjal there? Okay, if he's not there, then I think I'll come carry it out myself. I have requested my group to inform him. Okay, can you please enable the moderator? Can you please enable the mic for Ujjal? I see he has sent a message that he's there.
Yeah. Just a minute, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So at this stage, I will, since he's there, he has been instrumental. Ujjal there is a staff member of the project as well as a research scholar now. He did his MS with this. He's been working with robotics. And the other members in the team include Sujata, who has been working on the thermal science labs. And we have Sri Lakshmi, who did in manufacturing and also in this robotics labs. And yeah, I think the supporting staff we have from Aditya, who has been doing with robotics, and we have Devashish, who has also been supporting the technology behind all. So I will hand over the presentation to them. They will take over. They have done many field trials and they understand the way questions and answers come up. And over to you, Ujjal. So I'll request all of them to make sure that you complete this session in whatever time, limited time. Okay, thank you. So you can mute me now.
Thank you, sir.
I'm muting myself.
Okay. Okay, I'm requesting to just me add as a co-host, unless I can't share my screen. Okay, thank you. So, can you hear my voice? Is it audible?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. So, Professor Kumar has given introduction about the labs we will be demonstrating. I don't know how much time we can spend. So, few labs we will talk today about mechanism and robotics, kinematics and dynamics, rotary machineries, and multi-phase. So, there are also other labs on mechanical engineering. Once we go through 2 or 3 labs, you can understand the basic fundamentals of how to use type of virtual labs, since processes are more or less similar. So I will quickly skip this slide since Professor Kumar has already talked about virtual labs, what are the objectives and what are the resources we need. These are the lab links we will share in messages, how to go to the individual labs after I finish my presentation. Now, since over here, I will give quick introduction about for each part we are actually describing. Coming with the mechanics, as we know, there are 2 main branches of mechanics of solids, mechanics of fluid, and even in mechanics of solids, we consider mechanics of rigid bodies, and another is the mechanics of deformable bodies. We consider body to be deformed. In rigid body, here again we have 2 divisions of statics and dynamics. Statics, we consider the member to be at rest or the body to be at rest, and in dynamics, specifically again come the 2 branch which is called kinematics and kinetics. In kinematics, we only analyze the motion of the rigid body without considering what forces or torques which causes the motion. And in kinetics, we consider the forces also. So the main part comes under the kinematics part, the two labs which will demonstrate on kinematics and dynamics and the mechanisms and robotics. Next. So starting with a very brief introduction of mechanism. As you know, mechanism is basically a kind of rigid body, and they are connected in a certain fashion. That movement of one member will be unique and motion, which we can actually get some work output or power output. Here we see a simple example like the engines and all. Now this mechanism is called as a machine. When you utilize that mechanism to get some now these are the basic few definitions. In generally second year we go through on theory of machine courses about kinematic pairs, which define how the two rigid bodies are connected. There can be a lower pair. In lower pair, there has a kind of surface contract. Under the lower pairs, it comes the revolute, prismatic, skewed pair, cylindrical pair, spheric, and planar. And in higher pairs, there are basically a line contact or point contact, as you see in ball bearings, roller bearings, and cam follower mechanisms. And in there is other class of pairs which is called wrapping pairs. In this wrapping pairs, a body completely wraps the another, as we see in belt, pulley, and that kind of systems. Now, again, depending whether the mechanism is confined in a 2D space or the motion is confined in a 2D space or not, we can define a mechanism as a plane mechanism or spatial mechanism. In generally, the mechanisms demonstrate with their 4-bar links and all those. We can define the motion in one plane. Those are plane mechanism and mechanism which we will be demonstrating using robotic system that are called spatial mechanism. Now, in this mechanism, there is very interesting features from what we call kinematic inversion. It is nothing but fixing the different links of a mechanism at a time. We will get a distinct kind of mechanism, and that will give a distinct useful motion, which can be used in different application. As we'll see next, is a very common example of folding planar mechanism, as shown in this picture taken from one book, that by fixing one link at a time, if you can see my cursor, I'm sure, by fixing first link, we'll getting one mechanism, then again fixing the second link, we are getting the second mechanism. Likewise, by fixing this one mechanism with all link at a time, we will get 4 different mechanisms. We will see all this demonstration in the virtual lab experiments. Okay. Now, again, depending on the range of motion, a general mechanism, 4-bar or any kind of mechanism can be divided into another 3 categories, which we generally call as a double crank or drag link mechanism. But a double crank mechanism, in a double crank mechanism, both the input link and output link rotate full 360-degree motion. And in crank rocker, only one can rotate and other will just oscillate. And in double, none of the link can rotate 360 degree, only they will oscillate at certain amount. So what criteria decide that whether the mechanism will be have double crank or crank rocker or double rocker depends on their individual length. We'll go in much detail when we will be explaining these things in kinematics and dynamics virtual labs. I'm just skipping this. Now, that was the part of the mechanism which we generally read on theory of machine course or the kinematics and dynamics part. Next come the mechanisms which we extend to a 3-dimensional or the spatial mechanism I was talking about, by which a general robotic system is made up of, or which more general called a robotic manipulator. So a general robotic system has a robotic arm, or which is called a robotic manipulator, which is joined by all those kinematic pairs I talked about, each of the joint. Here it is no degree of freedom robot. So it have a drive unit which drives the individual joint. Generally, drive unit contains the motors and all those things. And by each drive unit or each system is controlled by a specific controller. Apart from that, since it's a robotic system, has additional kind of sensors and end effector or gripper to manipulate object from one place to another. Now, there are very interdisciplinary areas in robotics. It's not limited to only mechanical engineering. There are other departments involved, the computer science and artificial intelligence, motion planning. The control schemes need to be implemented with the electronic hardware. Apart from that, general science also involved, since mathematics and physics need to be understood. Now, I already talked about degree of freedom. A general spatial mechanism has 6 degree of freedom, and or the spatial manipulator we call has a 6 degree of freedom, and a planar manipulator have 3 degree of freedom. As you can understand, to reach a position in a 3-dimensional space, we need 6 dimension to configure it from all orientation. So if a system has a more than 6 degree of freedom, or if it has less than 6 degree of freedom, then 2 categories come, which is called redundant manipulator. Redundant manipulator is nothing but if a spatial manipulator has more than 6 degree of freedom, means if you added more degree of freedom than it's needed, then it is called redundant manipulator. Similarly, if it has less number of degree of freedom, as I said, in a three-dimensional space, if you want to grip a object, you need at least minimum 6 degree of freedom to grip it from all orientation and the position. So if some manipulators have less than 6 degree of freedom, we are basically calling it as under actuated, because it may not reach that object position from all orientation. We will see all this demonstration in mechanism in robotics lab. Now, giving some general terminology used in sorry.
Sir, actually, there is a number of messages from the participants that audio is not coming well. So, can you just look over to your internet connection once?
Yeah, my internet connection is okay. Let me.
Okay, sometimes the audio is getting distorted, but otherwise it is okay. Sometimes it is yeah.
Okay. Maybe I am going a little bit fast. I don't know.
Yeah, I think if you go a little bit slower, a little bit. I know the time is short, so then this problem can be sorted.
Okay. I understood.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Just very quickly, we'll go about some robot kinematics terms, since robotics subject is generally taught in final year or pre-final year. So in robot kinematics, we need to define or represent an object by using a coordinate system. This type of coordinate system we call as a body coordinate system, which is the frame which is attached to the body or the object of the manipulator, which can move. And another coordinate system, we have a universal or base coordinate system, which is generally referred to the body of the or rigid body of that robotic part, which is generally considered as a fixed, which is not movable. That's called a universal or base coordinate system. Now, to represent the position and orientation of any object in 3D space, there are some nomenclature. So we need to present the 2 things. One is the orientation, means how the body is oriented in a 3-dimensional space. So to represent the orientation, we took the base coordinate frame and we have attached the body coordinate frame here. Okay, now since you can see this body coordinate frame is rotated with respect to this base coordinate frame by certain amount of angles in each axis. These angles or the vectors are generally called normal vectors, sliding vector, and approach vectors. Okay, and you can represent the whole this transformation of this body frame with respect to this base frame by a 3x3 matrix. So this is basically called frame representation or frame transformation. Here we are representing the orientation parts. Now next comes the position. At what distance this body coordinate is located from this base coordinate frame. So what we do, we need to do a vector addition. You can see if we consider this point here in body coordinate frame, it is at a distance of b. ORG means position of origin of B frame with respect to the base frame and the position of the point. Okay, so we represent the translation in this vector addition part, and representing the rotation part, as I mentioned earlier, we just simply need to multiply this matrix. Okay, now if we combine both the system and represent it as a one matrix, then this you can see it will come as a 4x4 matrix, what we call transformation matrix. So this transformation matrix, it transforms all the parameters represented in this body frame. All the parameters means whatever it may be, the position, velocity, acceleration, whatever parameters, it will directly transform these parameters from coordinate B to the coordinate universal coordinate frame. Okay. Now this is the final form how it will look like. This R11 to R33, this positional value will determine the orientation of the object, and this QX, QY, and QZ will represent the XYZ position from the base frame. Okay, so in robotics, we need to define this manipulated kinematics, and since you can see that here, when we are mapping the parameters from one link to another, there we need to add the coordinate frame. So to do that, we need to describe the link length and all those things in a certain manner in order to reduce the number of variables. So here the link description is given how to describe the position and orientation between axis I-1 and axis I. So this is represented by a perpendicular distance between these two axes, which is represented by AI-1, and the angle, at what angle it is oriented, it is represented by alpha I-1. This is the representation of the link. Suppose this is link I-1 and we have the link, another link I here in the axis I. Okay, now this link length we have given as AI, and angle of twist we have represented by alpha. Okay, so another two parameters we need, which is called offset, link offset or joint offset, many times we call, which is represented by this value GI, and the amount of rotation with respect to its own axis is given in terms of joint angle. Okay, that is the joint value which we are giving to each link of this manipulator. This all the definition will be clear once we simulate those things in robotics lab. Okay, so in all these coordinate frames are assigned in a general robotic manipulator in order to analyze the system and carry out any kind of manipulation task. Okay, so then the transformation matrix I talked about earlier, will map the parameter from one frame to another. We present these four variable AI, alpha, bi, and theta. So final expression will come like this. So this is the final form of transformation matrix. So sir, say you want to map the parameter from a frame A, frame B. You just need to multiply this transformation matrix. It will automatically map all those parameters. Now, in robotics, two main analysis in under positional any kind of extension, then you can record it. Okay, I think you should hand over to Sujata for next lab experiment.
Okay, I'm going to wind up my. Sujata will continue the session.
Thank you, Srilakshmi. Am I audible?
Yeah, go on.
Right.
Okay. So, my name is Sujata, and today I'll be explaining you about the multi-phase flow lab. As all the two labs you have already seen, you already know the procedure. You have to follow the same procedure. First, you have to go to the vlabs.iitkgp.ac.in. There you will be selecting the mechanical. If you click on the mechanical, you will get all the labs which are related to the mechanical branch. These two labs, kinematics and dynamics of mechanism and the robotics lab, these two labs are already explained to you. So I'll be explaining about the virtual laboratory on multi-phase flow. If you click here, you will be directed to the multi-phase flow lab. Here you can see the interface is same as the two earlier labs. Introduction to the whichever particular experiment you are performing, that will be given here. The list of the experiments which are included in this lab will be given to you over here. The people who have developed this lab, the technology which is used, and at the end we need your feedback. In the introduction part, the way you are seeing over here, that the virtual laboratory on multi-phase flow, the introduction to this experiment, because at the initial stage you will not have all the information related to the experiment, so that all the introduction will be given to you over here. As you can see over here, that it is multi-phase flow. Multi means many and phases. So here it will you will be interacting through two multi-phase flow, but for your understanding, here we are going to consider two-phase flow so that you will get the basic idea of the experiment. So here the introduction related to the experiment is given, and once you click on the list of the experiments, here you can see various experiments are given to you over here. Through that, since we are lacking time, I'll be explaining you about the first experiment, that will be the rise of Taylor bubble through vertical circular conduit. Taylor bubble, first you need to get some information about the Taylor bubble. For that, the theory, whichever is related to this particular experiment, is already given to you over here. Here, the definition of the Taylor bubble, what is the structure of it, that it is showing from the image itself. You can see that the nose of the bubble is there, liquid film, tail, wake region, and this is the geometry of the typical Taylor bubble. If you are considering two-phase flow, that it can be a liquid plus gas, a liquid-liquid, or it depends on the type of the liquid also. So here you can see the images of the Taylor bubble. This is the air Taylor bubble in liquid paraffin, and the diameter of the tube is 12.7 mm. The second diagram, this diagram is the Taylor bubble, or the bubble of kerosene in water. As I have already told you that it can be a mixture of air or any gas plus liquid, or a liquid-liquid. So this is the example of liquid-liquid, that is the kerosene bubble in water. So these are some of the diagrams or the images to understand the structure of the Taylor bubble. So you can go through this particular theory. The basic aim of this experiment is to calculate the velocity of the Taylor bubble in the given pipe. So as for that we need the formula to calculate the velocity, that is given over here, that is V is equal to K into root of GD. So here the theory which is required for performing the experiment is already given to you either in introduction or in theory. So basically the velocity of the Taylor bubble, it depends on the diameter of the Taylor bubble and the liquid which we are going to use it. So for your visualization, we have developed a simulator, and the procedure related to that, or the experimental setup which we have already in our lab, is already given to you over here. Earlier, as I have told you, that we have to find the variation of rise velocity with bubble volume and the variation of rise velocity with the tube diameter. This is the experimental setup which is there in our lab, and its components and whatever theoretical part related to the experiment, which is given over here, the methodology and the for the visualization of rise of the Taylor bubble. You can click on this video and you can see that you can see this video, so that you will be able to visualize that how that Taylor bubble is going to form. Basically, I'll tell you that if you are having a vertical pipe, in that you are having a liquid. For your understanding, we will consider it as water in a given pipe. Then at the end, at the bottom side of that particular pipe, you will have one valve. If you open that valve and if you immediately close it, then what will happen? A part of air will pass into that particular pipe, and that will rise up in that pipe in this form. So if you open that valve, if you immediately again close it, then the air will pass into the pipe, and that bubble will look like this. So for that we have considered in here the images are related to the other things, but I'll show you the simulation so that you will be able to see. And for calculating the velocity, as we know that if we know the distance and time, the velocity will be given by distance upon time. So here what we have done, I'll show you the flash animation in which two sensors are considered over here. Here you have to allow this. See, here the bubble is passing from the bottom side. It will pass from the pipe at time t1. Time t1 will be calculated and time t2 will be calculated. You already know the distance. You already know the time t1 and t2. So you can find the velocity by our standard formula, that velocity will be given by the distance upon time. So this is for your understanding. This is given the simulation part. This is also another simulation in JavaScript animation, but rather than that, this one is much more clearer. That's why I'm showing that thing to you. After that, in the assignment part, whether you want to know whether you have understood the experiment or not, for that some good questions are given over here, and you can go through those questions. If you solve them, you will come to know whether you have understood the experiment or not, or they are also good for your practice. And at the end, this quiz will be given to you. In that, you can click on the start. Here you will be given with some of the questions. I'm randomly selecting some things because we don't have time. So once you click on, if you go on answering the questions, you will come to know that whether you have understood the experiment, and here it will show your score that okay, you have scored 3 out of 5, and what are the questions that you have marked and what are the correct answers to that question. And at the end again, here we have given with some good references. You can go through these references, and for your more understanding, here the NPTEL video lecture links are also given to you, and through that you can understand the experiment. So with this, I'll complete with this experiment related to the virtual laboratory on multi-phase flow. If you again click on this, if you want to go through some other list of experiments, then you can again click here, and then you can understand the other experiments and the simulation related to them. So with this, I'll conclude with my part related to the multi-phase flow. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sujata. I think there are no much questions. Only one question was there related to heat transfer, refrigeration, and air conditioning. Are you planning to develop any virtual labs?
For now, we have developed this but if you have any suggestion that these are the experiments which we are conducting in our college, or this is there in our syllabus, if you suggest us, we will definitely work on it.
Yes, show the mechanical page, labs page, which are existing page, so that they can view the other subjects also.
Yeah. If your friends are from some different department and if they also want to know these labs, then all the labs are given over here. In mechanical particularly, these are the labs which are already developed. From that, 3 labs we have already demonstrated.
And then please send your request to sir, given the mail ID of Professor C.S. Kumar sir. You can send your suggestions or requests to that mail ID.
In your feedback form also, you can
Any other?
Suggest the new labs. Your suggestions are welcome.
Any other questions related to this session, you can post here.
I think, can we conclude?
Yeah, Sujata, I think you can mute. Sir, Kumar sir, you can unmute yourself and you can talk, sir.
If it's a call. Yeah, I hope you're able to hear me now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, our team has given a reasonable good presentation. Let me unmute myself. Let me see if my video will also come up. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. My team has given the presentation of a representative set of labs. There are many more labs in mechanical engineering. I would also urge the entire participant group to look at other labs which are there in the national vlab.co.in site. They are labs on various topics like metal forming, There are labs on this mechanics of materials. There are other topics which are even on, let's say, mechanical instrumentation for fluid mechanics. These are done by, let's say, IIT Kanpur, IIT Guwahati, some from NIT Surathkal, some from Dayal Bagh Engineering Institute in Agra. Like this, we have labs which are scattered and developed from across the country. So use this platform to look at those labs as well. They have a similar structure. They have a similar approach to go through the materials, just like the way we have seen now. I have been observing some of the comments. If there are any new comments, new labs that people are requesting to be added, you can always send a request link about this, a request about this to the emails that I've given. And with that, we are now moving into a phase which is called as the phase 4 of the project. In the phase 4, we will be taking up these requests to develop labs in this context. Some very basic undergraduate labs, even in, let's say, workshop labs, are being developed. This time the request for refrigeration, air conditioning has come. We'll find out a way to support that, and so on. Like, there is also a lab on automotive systems. You can have a look at it. But these are physical labs, access to physical labs, but we will soon be adding the virtual labs for it also. There's a lab coming up on additive manufacturing. So there will be many such labs coming up, and it's a good occasion to for us also to take your feedback. You make your requests. If required, we may even try to involve you if there are good developers in your team, and we can use their help to even develop these labs and their content. So I'll leave it at this. If you have any other queries, you can give it through the feedback forms or other methods. So over to the organizers, unless any of my team members want to say something.
No, sir, over to organizers. We are completed.
So I thank my team. They are sitting from various other cities, some in Andhra, some in Mumbai, which are very hot zones of this COVID. They have spared some time. Some are from the campus. So they have spared their time, and I'm happy to note that there are many participants in this workshop. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. It looks like we have covered all our questions. So is there anything else you wanted to cover before a wrap up?
I think for now it is okay. Since you set a target of 1 p.m., 12 p.m., that is fine.
Okay.
Do you want? Otherwise, we can always extend this. One of them can take up anything else. From a quick introductory portion, I think this was fine.
Okay, great, sir. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you all being here. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you next time. With this, I end today's webinar. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure participating.